The man has a second life, Dan. J-Mo, back on top of the world. People are 2 feet back in. If you have that J-Mo, are you sending him and Davante Adams away to get into Drake London?
Man, you're starting out with a hard one, Ty, but man, I don't think I am. I hate to lose like a top 12 wide receiver in Drake London.
Yeah, let's talk about it. This is a tough one. What we thought we knew has now changed. Let's talk about it.
You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me. Hurt my feelings.
Yeah, we're back in this thing, Dan. Let's go. Welcome into another edition of the DD Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Ty at Ty Declare 44. Let's go. I'm joined by Dan. Dan, where can they find you on the old X app? And thank you so much for coming in today.
Hey, my pleasure, man. Follow me, FF Coach Dan, on Twitter. Also follow at Dynasty Theory. You know, great to be part of DD Fantasy Football right now. And Ty, you just got me pumped, man, to talk some football tonight.
Ooh, let's get it, baby. If you want to talk football all damn day long, patreon.com/allgas, ddfantasyfootball.com. Dan, you got eyes behind the scenes. We got everything popping in the Discord. We got nightly shows on the stages. We got exclusive content. We got conversation 24/7. I can't keep up with it. I don't know if you can. I can't keep up with it all.
It's funny, man. You know, we came from a Dynasty Theory Discord it was busy, you know, and we had a great tight unit, and it was a little tough to keep up. We came over to DD Fantasy Football, and man, is it hopping. Like, I do my best to hop in there and be part of it. I'm, you know, giving some good DFS content as well. I joke, I cheat on my Dynasty Theory brothers a little bit and do some DFS. But yeah, there's a lot of great football in there. So if you want to get better at whatever fantasy football you play, it is there.
Yeah, football, DFS, help, Marvel. There's a space for you in the DD Discord. So come on in. And hey, Underdog, now's the time. Head on over there, code all gas at sign up. Get to 1,000 on the arm at sign up. Let's go. Head on over there, get in, 2 feet in. Dan, let's hop into some trades.
Yeah, you know, that's why I say I hate to do it. Like, I think it's definitely team specific. Like, I do believe in J-Mo. I didn't give up on him in the offseason. I've got a few shares. I actually tried to get more shares in the offseason. I think owners are kind of stubbornly holding on to him, so he wasn't easy to acquire. And, you know, you put him with Davante Adams, and that's the challenge for me right now for this trade. So as much as I'm like on the J-Mo trade, I'm still high on Drake London. I'm not scared away by his week one. I believe he's a top 12 talent-wise, at least, receiver, and I think he's still going to be good for fantasy. I think Davante Adams is going to have some good weeks and a good season, but man, once you know how we get in Dynasty, it's like that age discrimination over the age of 30. It's like I don't want to get stuck with him on my roster.
Yeah,
but if I'm like all in, going to win right now this year, I want that first place prize money. I might say, you know what? I believe in J-Mo. I think he can get close to the London territory. And, hey, I'll ride Davante Adams for a year, and that's going to help my team win. So that's a little bit of my take. You know, I normally like the best player overall in a deal, and to me, that's London. But that's a juicy offer there.
Yeah, and like we don't know much on the format. It's this vanilla format, so I'll assume 12 teams start 10, your typical format. I mean, there's people that I don't mind getting stuck with, right? If they die on my roster, cool. I took the last steps with them, and Davante Adams is one of those guys for me. So, I mean, if you're giving me Davante Adams on top of the upside shot with JMO, with what we know today after week one. I think on the right roster, I'm taking Davante Adams and J-Mo, but I can't blame anyone for taking the buy low on Drake London right now.
Yeah, I think the only reservation I have on Adams, like I agree with you, Ty. I think, Davante Adams, we all know is a superstar. It's just the Gardner Minshew Raiders team situation that kind of says like, hey, I think this guy could still produce now, and I have no problem with him dying on my roster. But I'm really worried about a lot of bad Las Vegas weeks. Unless hopefully, hey, they trade him or something, they're out of contention. They know they could get something for him. Then you'd be looking really sweet sitting with a J-Mo we believe in and Davante hopefully finishing his career in a good situation. And then what's your thoughts on London? Like, I do worry a little bit that I get too bullish on him and, hey, you're passing up a sweet offer there in Davante and J-Mo.
All right. Well, I mean, I'm pulling up Dynasty Daddy here with Drake London in the old trade database, and I'm looking. I mean, yeah, Drake London and a third for Michael Pittman, Adonai Mitchell and Joe Mixon for Drake London, Jordan Mason and a second, Baker and Ramondre for Drake London. So it just doesn't feel like he has the same oomph he had 4 days ago. So it feels like a bit of an overreaction, I would say. But I mean, really, Cousins did not look good in the game that we watched. I mean, I'll give him the first game jitters back, but I mean, until Penix gets in there, until we see something from that Atlanta offense where they can actually support Bijan, London, and Pitts, it's going to be scary hours. And I think like the general market kind of reflects that.
Yeah, and I think the Atlanta Falcons are one of the more interesting teams to follow in fantasy and in real life. Like on Dynasty Theory, I always have that coach and management mindset from my coaching experience. And like, I don't know how you pay a quarterback as much money as they did in Kirk Cousins. Draft this young kid with your first round pick when if you're paying a 36-year-old quarterback $100 million plus, you're in it to win now. And they go and they draft Penix. So then, okay, we had a few months to absorb that and wrap our minds around it. The preseason comes and they don't give Penix any snaps. Like he had like 3, and then they said, nope, we've seen enough. Like it just doesn't make sense what they're doing. And that concerns me as a dynasty owner, like that they're going to waste this great talent. I like a lot of Matt Hardman's reception perception. He's high on London. The coach in me, I watch a lot of film. I love watching his film. Like I love this player. It's just Atlanta's made it very difficult in the last 2 years for that potential to be realized. But I do think it's just week one, hopeful overreaction. Kirk Cousins has got a great track record. And when he does get too old to perform, I do think Michael Penix will ultimately be a good quarterback. So I think it's hopefully a good situation for London.
Well said. Well said. All right. Let's find something. We got so much conversation. Here we go. Big Diaz energy. One of the main staples in the DD Discord right now. 12-team start 11 Superflex PPR 2 tight end with a 1.75 tight end premium. Tight ends don't matter in this deal. But Dan, spoiler alert, I think we're going to see a lot of Jordan Mason tonight. So these have all been done at different times throughout the week. This one was on September 9th. So Cortland Sutton or Jordan Mason and Tez Walker. 12 by 11. You got a threshold receiver, or you got the homemade dynamite in the San Francisco offense as long as Christian McCaffrey is tending to his Achilles tendonitis. Dan, how do you feel about Jordan Mason, and how do you feel about this deal?
Man, Jordan Mason, I mentioned this on a recent episode of Dynasty Theory. I'm kind of kicking myself a little bit that we go back to last year and remember all the Kyle Shanahan talk. The media was on him like, why aren't you playing this kid more? Every time we see him, he looks good. And the coach and me, every time I've watched Jordan Mason, I've enjoyed watching him run. We all know anybody in a Kyle Shanahan offense seems to perform. So I definitely like Jordan Mason. As far as this trade, though, fair trade. I get why it's happening, and I think we are going to see a lot of Jordan Mason, as you mentioned, Ty. But I'm on the Cortland Sutton side, and for these reasons, I'm out on Walker. He's not a receiver that I was buying into this dynasty offseason. Yeah, he's a deep bench stash, but I'm not acquiring him by any means. Mason is going to help us for sure now for a couple weeks. Is it 2 weeks? Is it 3 weeks? We'll see when CMC is back. But he's doing what a handcuff's supposed to do right now. He's performing when the starter's out. But once that starter's out, McCaffrey's not going to yield much to Mason. You're going to have this guy on your roster that's doing nothing as long as CMC is playing. Cortland Sutton, I think, still has some juice. I think there's going to be some growing pains with Bo Nix. As much as Bo Nix was kind of not a good fantasy performer last week, he threw the ball like 42 times, Ty. Like he's airing it out. And if Russ Wilson could get some production out of Sutton last year, I think Bo Nix eventually will too. Give me the starter here where they've got to start 11 guys. You're going to need Sutton, I think, over the course of a season.
I mean, Dan, like put your coach brain on, right? You got an NFL quarterback in his very first real live NFL game, and you're putting the trust in his arm to throw it 42 damn times out of the gate. Like, what does that tell you about just like a mentality of the offense and what Sutton's opportunity could be this year?
Yeah, man. And I'm sure there's a little bit there that Sean Payton didn't want to throw the ball 42 times. They had a little trouble getting that run game going. Hopefully they will become more balanced, and that'll take some pressure off Bo Nix. So you'll get more efficiency and not, I watched the game. There were he was gutsy. He zips them in there, and they were like some close to completion, some close to interceptions. Like, he's still learning, so he looked like a rookie learning, but they're not afraid to throw it with him. And I think he's smart enough to keep getting better. And Denver purposely didn't trade Cortland Sutton. They had takers. They had people that inquired about him this offseason, and they said, no, we're keeping him for our young quarterback. So there's still more left in Cortland Sutton. He's a starter I want here in this trade.
Yeah. Oh, they sent away that Judy. They kept the Sutton. And I mean, just looking at the offense, I'm not scared off by Vele. I don't care how you pronounce it. I'm not scared off by it. Marvin Mims, maybe in Scott Fishbowl, but not here. I mean, it's Sutton's offense and the running backs, in my opinion. So I get it. And again, we're going to hit a lot of Jordan Mason. So I'm not going to belabor the point. I'm going to take Sutton here as well. Guaranteed I'm starting Sutton in a 12-by-11. I'll find a way. Here we go. Jordan Mason or a second. Dan, at this point, I might just take the second if I need a start. If I have my running backs and flexes all squared away, and I'm not actually plugging Jordan Mason into my lineup, I can if I take a strategic bet on a second, I'm cool with it. But I feel like, and we're going to see some deals, I feel like the price is more than a second at this point, even with the short-term window on Jordan Mason. How do you feel?
Yeah, I'm with you, Ty. And I mean, I get my chops busted in the Discord in different places because I'm very aggressive trading draft picks. Like, you'll hear people say, hey, Dan has no draft pick, surprise. But when you're looking at a deal like this, I think, hey, let's fast forward 1 year from now. That second round pick is probably going to be a lot more talented and have a better opportunity than Jordan Mason. You're going to rather that second round pick then. The only way in this deal that would contemplate Mason is if I had CMC, my running back room's thin, and I really need to just have that Niners situation locked up. I'm a contender, and that second is probably going to be really late, So there's like that thin scenario where I might contemplate it, but 1-for-1, most scenarios, I'd rather the upside of the second next year.
For sure. And when I think about, firsts are created different, that's a totally different conversation. When I think about seconds and thirds, especially in these 12-by-10 kind of leagues, it's like Superflex, PPR, your mostly standard leagues, I like to think of those picks as how many starts can I buy with this asset? And you can use it plenty of ways as a pick. But if Jordan Mason entered your lineup and did exactly what he did on Monday Night Football, let's say 3 times, Dan, would that be worth the second to you? Or is it just the fact that the runway is coming to an end so quickly and you'd rather stay flexible and take the long-term bet on a second?
Yeah, 3 weeks for a second. I mean, we look at past drafts, and I'm just looking at my rankings, and I think of some of the guys we've scored, whether it be the Tank Dells or the Jaden Reeds or the Ramondre Stevensons. There are some talented dudes you're getting in the second rounds, and in recent years, these drafts have been a little bit deeper. So I want 16 to 18 weeks of that second round pick, hopefully next year, versus what situation's Mason going to be in? He's probably going to be a backup again. That's only going to get you a few weeks. So like I said, there's that really small window where if I know it's going to be a real late second and I just really need to solidify that San Francisco situation, and I still don't even know if I would do a tie. I'm just trying to put myself in the other shoes.
I feel you. Because I mean, again, if anything further happens with CMC, the runway is still going to be there for Jordan Mason, but I don't see Jordan Mason as an asset that's going to ascend in value from this point forward. This is probably the peak. The question is, do you need to pump that production into your lineup right now? Usually how I like to play is I do like to keep those seconds, those thirds in my back pocket. So as I'm going through the year, I can plug up some holes. I can tool up my team, especially if I think I'm contending. I know a lot of my teams look like yours, Dan. They have no picks because they're winning, right? I got all the players, so But yeah, again, we're gonna see a lot of Mason, so we'll hit it from a couple different angles. I'm not gonna go over a third. I know how you feel there. Jordan Mason or Dontavian Wicks, Dan, at 12-team start 10. We'll call it a lineup, half PPR league. Jordan Mason or Dontavian Wicks.
This is an easy one. And this is one, hey, for those Mason owners out there, this is the kind of trade you want. If you could find somebody that believes in Wicks, there were a lot of Devontae Wicks truthers in the offseason. I was not one of them just because I really felt Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, and Romeo Doubs, who I think is underrated, are all better. I just think he took advantage of some opportunities last year, Wicks, but he's not even playing. Like wide receiver 3s don't win fantasy leagues, never mind a wide receiver 4. So I'm going to take that strong handcuff. Give me that running back and Jordan Mason.
Yeah. I mean, with Wicks, if you're putting him in your lineup 17 out of 17 weeks, you're going to eat a lot of zeros and have some frustrations. For Jordan Mason, you know you're going to be starting him right now. And as soon as the opportunity is gone, you know exactly where he's going on your bench and back to reality. So I'm taking Mason here. Give me the production right now. You can take that, what I'll consider a roster clogger type receiver in a 12-team start 10 league. Okay, here we go. Okay, we got a different name than just Jordan Mason now, Dan. We got that Puka Nacua. So here we go. We don't have the settings, but we'll stick with the 12-team start 10. We'll call it a PPR league, super flex, and I don't see any tight ends. So Puka Nacua and a 2026 third, or T. Higgins, Jordan Mason, and Xavier Leggett. Dan, I've seen Puka. I felt like all offseason too. People were waiting for a reason to really start fade Puka. And again, he re-injured a knee injury and he had injury history in college. So right now we're seeing the stock come right back down to earth on Puka. I've seen a lot of deals for Puka. Higgins, that man Jordan Mason, and Xavier Leggett. Is that enough to get Puka off your hands in your standard 12-team start 10 league?
Boy, this is an interesting one, Ty. And like 26 third, I don't even care about. So I'm really not even equating it in here. I do have some level of concern with the mindset of, Ty, you said, hey, a lot of our rosters are the same. We've traded draft capital. They're contending rosters. So if I have Puka, I'm a little bit concerned that this could extend out a little bit or be an issue this year. But in this trade, T. Higgins is damaged goods right now too and is battling something. So it's not like if T. Higgins was healthy and had a good week 1 and like I like T. Higgins, I might be a little bit more inclined. Xavier Leggett is kind of interesting. I think there's some potential there, but Carolina is so dang bad and Bryce Young's so terrible right now. So that's not really giving me any value. I don't consider Mason definitely like a needle mover because he's going to be on the bench in a few weeks. So I might try to negotiate a little bit harder and get something else on that Higgins side. I don't know if that's greedy or not. It might be. But I love Puka. I think he's a legit talent. Like other than the health stuff, I'm not concerned. And like he was healthy all last year. Like he was awesome. So I'm going to take the Puka side, but I think it's a fair deal. This is one where if I saw it go through in the league, I'd say, hey, great job, both teams. I like what you're doing. What do you think? Is Mason and Leggett enough to move you with Higgins?
I'm assuming that this is a contending team that's now in scary hours because that Puka's on ice, right? And they need to figure out something to do. So I agree. Like I don't think T. Higgins is the pivot point that I'm looking for if I'm moving off of that Puka. I mean, like you said, Higgins dealing with an injury. Water is also wet, right? And like the Bengals offense didn't look great out the gate. I'll bet on the talent, but I'm not exactly betting on the offensive scheme of Zach Brown to really maximize, T. Higgins. I think because he's in his contract year 2 now, right? So he should be either free agent or assigned. Something's going to happen, and T. Higgins is going to be on everyone's brain in the offseason. So I don't mind rolling with the T. Higgins, but if I'm moving off Puka, I need to get like some win now stuff because that's the only reason why. Otherwise, I'll just hold them. So I don't think T. Higgins, Leggett, Mason, I don't think those are the pieces that I want if I'm moving off Puka. Now, Dan, let me ask you, if that was Mike Evans, even just Mike Evans, Jordan Mason, take that third out. Does Mike Evans and Jordan Mason, and what plus do you need at that point to move off your Puka?
That one's like torture, Ty, because like I do love Mike Evans this year. Like Baker looked really good week 1. And I don't think that's a fluke. Like he's building up momentum from last year. I know Washington defense was bad last week, but I think Baker's still going to have a good year. But Mike Evans is over that 30-year-old threshold, Ty, where I don't think that would be the answer for me either, even if I'm contending next year, because realistically, 1 year, 2 year, maybe 3. Like those wheels are going to fall off. And it probably is age discrimination with Mike Evans because the guy's only had 1,000 yards every year and hasn't slowed down yet. But I think if I'm going to move Puka, and hey, if I'm a contending team and I'm concerned about his health, I would try to move him. But I'd rather get someone younger, like a Michael Pittman or a George Pickens or a DJ Moore, someone that, hey, they're playing right now. They're healthy. They're going to produce, and I'm going to have them for a lot more years. Because here's the reverse side of this. Puka either comes back healthy this year and lights it up, or he comes back next year. You're giving up a guy in his early 20s that should be around for another, 8-10 years producing. So I want to make sure I'm at least getting something back that I'm not going to regret it next year.
Right. No, absolutely. I can't argue with that. And yeah, I mean, choose your name, right? Like, yeah, your Chris Olaves, your Michael Pittmans, DJ Moores, like you said, like there's tons of guys in that range that still have that youth, the flexibility, but can also bring some production to your game. So I think there's plenty of pivot points. I don't know if T. Higgins is that one for me. I'm probably just going to roll with Puka here, but it's scary hours for Puka. And again, we're going to hit a lot of Puka here, so I'm not gonna hold us up. But God, do you want to talk about Jordan Mason again? How about you give up Keenan Allen and Jordan Mason to get into Devonta Smith, Dan? How do you feel about that?
Wow, that is a smash accept. If that was in my inbox and I'm the one getting Devonta Smith, man, that's a home run. Yeah, right. I don't think you're missing Keenan Allen or Jordan Mason one bit when Devonta lands on your roster.
No, not at all. That gets a couple of air horns. I mean, we've talked about the 30-year-old Cliff, right? I mean, Allen's right there. He's in a busy offense, and he already is dealing with a heel injury. I swear, when he was running through the end zone and started to pull up again, I was like, oh no, there it is, out for a couple of weeks, and there goes the bet. But he was able to keep playing. But yeah, I'm taking the tier up to Devonta Smith here and not really thinking twice.
Yeah, and I love Caleb Williams. There's a lot of excitement there, but that Bears offensive line is so not good. So you get a rookie quarterback still learning with a not good offensive line. I don't think we're going to reap the benefits of Caleb right away. And, we don't have time to wait with Keenan Allen.
No, we don't. Here we go. Okay. I swear there's no Jordan Mason, no Puka. This is a brand new deal here, Dan. We got a 12-team start 11, super flex, full PPR. Okay. 7 goat rings. He's a staple on the show. He brings a lot of big trades, and this is one of them. So goat rings got himself into Jordan Addison, and not one, but 2 2025 first and a 2026 first round pick. He sent away Jaleel McLaughlin, Kyle Pitts, and Chris Olave. Dan, I see you clapping. Talk us through it.
Especially when I look at non-tight end premium. Like, even if it was tight end premium, I'm taking those 3 firsts and Addison tie. That is a sweet deal, man. And I'm not one that's high on Pitts. I haven't been. I understand why people are. He's a freak athlete, but non-tight end premium, Olave is just, he can't carry that trade. I like Chris Olave. I kind of think he's in that Drake London class. They're on that like back end of the top 12 wide receivers, but a little bit of a tough situation. Derek Carr's not going to produce like he did every week. Although sympathies for Olave owners last week. If you ever said Derek Carr and the Saints were going to put up 47 points and Olave was only going to have 2 catches, you'd laugh. Right. But man, like those 2 firsts are going to be sweet next year. And then you got a 26 first to boot. And Addison's no slouch, man. So sweet deal.
Yeah, it's a bit of a robbery, goat rings. I think you know what you did. Because Dan, like Addison and a 26 first. Would you move your Olave for that? Or Addison and a 25 first?
I think Addison, I'm always impatient, Ty. I can't seem to wait for those 26 firsts with Addison. A 25 first, I would.
Sure.
And I hope it'd be like even a mid first round pick would be pretty sweet next year. If it's a late first round, I might be a little hesitant. Like if I know it's a powerhouse, that's got a good chance of winning the league. That's kind of where I'm at there.
I think there's assets it's okay to be stingy on. I think Olave is one of those. So Jordan Addison on a 25 first, cool. You just talked about Pitts. I'm assuming that in a non-tight end premium league here, you're not sending like a liquid 2025 first for Pitts straight up, if I'm hearing you correctly, right?
No, not at all. Again, there's way more talented dudes that are going to be in next year's rookie class that are going to be better than Kyle Pitts. And that's just on our hope for Kyle Pitts yet. Like, he still hasn't even done anything we've expected. So
Yeah.
this was a sweet deal.
So even if you did that, you're still looking at like a first for Jaleel. So goat rings, this is something else. Good on you. You did it again. Good work. Okay, here we go. This is a fun one, Dan. This is going to make us think. So it's a 10-team league. 10-team, start 9, Superflex, PPR, no tight end premium. The person in this deal, they already have Lamar and Goff. They've been trying to send away Burrow all year. No one wanted him. He has multiple 25 seconds in his pocket. So he sent away Joe Burrow and a 2025 second-round pick. He got into J.J. McCarthy, Xavier Worthy, and a 2025 third. Now, Dan, when I dynasty, just because I have excess of something doesn't mean that I want to sell it or that everything comes at a discount. Right? I still got to be shrewd with certain assets. It has to make sense. So I like J.J. McCarthy, and I mean, in a 10-team start 9 league, I need all of the upside. I need all of the, as Shane likes to call them, crooked numbers. And I think Xavier Worthy has the opportunity to be that kind of an asset in Dynasty where every time he touches the ball, he can take it to the house. And there's something intrinsic about that. But I don't know if that's enough to get Burrow and a second off me, even in a 10-team league. I want it to be, but I don't know if it is. Dan, how do you feel on this one?
Yeah, unfortunately, Ty, I think I'm Simon again. Like, I wanted to pull out the red challenge flag here, but I just can't. And my mind was going in the same place. Like, I'm still high on Joey Burrow. I don't want to panic on week 1. Yeah. You know, he has been, as we're hearing a lot this week, a notoriously slow starter. We know Higgins was out, etc. Like, if you gave just Joe Burrow, you shouldn't have to give up your second too. No. If I was to give up Joey Burrow, I'd want McCarthy, Worthy, and I say probably a first, you know, maybe a second. And then, you know, we're having a conversation, you know, if that Joey Burrow roster, like you said, he's got those stud starting quarterbacks, maybe he's really desperate at receiver, but you know, one of his starting quarterbacks goes down. He's going to be wishing he had Joe Burrow this year because he's got to wait on, you know, a year to get McCarthy, who's still not proven. So we're aligned, man. I'd hold out and get more for Joe Burrow.
Yeah, and again, in a 10-team league, like I want elite quarterbacks for sure, but like I don't need to climb the ladder. I need to tier up at quarterback in a 10 by 10 or 10-team start 9 to really feel good about it. But I think it's still Burrow for me here. I mean, again, just because I have more seconds doesn't mean they get tossed into deals for nothing, right? So I agree. Like if that was JJ and Worthy and then that second, I think that's probably the deal that gets done. But hey, J.J. McCarthy and that Vikings offense, Kevin O'Connell, I think it could look really nice next year. But again, that's a next year play. And we're in week 1.5 right now, Dan. It's all about scoring points. So I'll take the bet on Burrow. I think it'll be better than what we saw. You know, maybe he has to grow his hair out again. I don't know what it's going to take, but I'll stick with Burrow. I'm not moving up Burrow just for that, but I do like myself some Worthy.
Yeah, and I just add, Ty, for that Burrow owner or a trade like this, to your point, wait a few weeks, man. Wait till Burrow has that big blow-up game and Chase and Higgins go off. Like, if the market's telling you it's quiet right now, just wait a bit and you'll get more later.
And that's the thing, too. You said, like, I've been trying to move them all year. Has that been in the off season or in the active season? Because guess what happens as soon as quarterbacks get hurt? People want quarterbacks, right? Like, Don't you think you can move that Burrow to the Jordan Love manager right now for probably a haul that you couldn't get a week ago?
Seize the opportunity when they open.
Exactly. And be ready when the opportunity knocks. Jerome Ford or Jordan Mason, Dan?
I'll go Jerome Ford. I think you're going to get more weeks out of him. There's a little more uncertainty with Chubb than there is McCaffrey. I think they're both good running backs, but I'll lean Ford.
If I need the starts now, give me Mason. If I don't need the starts, give me Ford. I'll play the longer game on Ford if that's the case. But, you know, you're playing in the same waters at this point. So That is what it is. Scrolling. I mean, I don't want to talk about Jordan Mason again right now. Here we go. Scardy, we did it. We got ourselves a Dak Prescott, Dan. Here we go. So we got a 12-team, start 10, Superflex 2.0 tight end premium. Still no tight ends in the deal, Dan. You're pairing Dak with Mahomes, become a top 3 team. You're sending away Jameis Winston, Drew Lock, Puka Nacua, a 25 third and a 25 fourth for Dak Prescott. So if I have to break that down again, it's Puka Nacua and some roster construction pieces for Dak Prescott. Dan, I don't know if you like the Cowboys or not. I can't tell, but where are you at on this one? Puka, Dak, 12 by 10. How do you feel?
I'm salivating here, man. And as much of a Cowboys homer as I am, and I wish I had my huge Prescott cut out behind me right now, I'm playing for money, and I always could take away that filter. I've traded Dak before. I've traded Cowboys before, so I will be unbiased. But, man, Superflex quarterbacks carry so much value. Even if Puka was crushing it right now, I want that stud, secure me, awesome quarterback. Give me Dak. Never mind for a hurt Puka. And those pieces are nothing there. Like, that is just a bad offer. I'm a little bit in shock that that's accepted. You know, maybe it must be a Rams fan that loves Puka, I guess. I'm not sure. And they're loaded at quarterback so that they could do that. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah. Strategy wise, that's Dak all the way.
If Puka's healthy, it's, you know, if it was like 4 weeks ago, Puka's healthy, I'm projecting healthy Puka, I'll take Puka. But I mean, Winston, Locke, you're playing just a roster construction game. Like, you're playing in the Scott Connor waters. And I'm cool to play that, but I don't want to have to pay and actually assign value to those guys in a deal. Like, they are toss-ins, throw-ins, waiver buys. Thirds and fourths, I can figure that out. I can get those back in other deals, or, you know, Dan, they're maybe a thirds and fourth never see the light of day on your roster. Like, you already have those things set, automatic payment as soon as they hit their roster, right to another roster to get another player. But yeah, with what we know today, give me Dak.
No, I got to call a timeout. I'm not pulling out the challenge flag yet. I'm going to call a timeout and talk to you, Ty. So take me back through that scenario. So he's elite right now. He's healthy. Yeah. He's crushing it. You said you'd consider that for Dak. What's your quarterback situation? That's the part that concerns me, Ty, because it's hard to trade. You know, I look at Dak as a top 12 quarterback easy. It's hard for me to move a top 12 quarterback. Most of my rosters are built with 2, hopefully 3 quarterbacks in Superflex. Even if the third's not anything shiny, it still gives me that option to start 2 most weeks, protects me in case of an injury, etc. I do have a lot of rosters with just 2 because we're competitive in Superflex. So we're gobbling up the quarterbacks. So my one's got to be a stud. Like, it's got to be no worse than Dak Prescott. My second, hopefully, is, you know, the Tuas, the Bakers, the Goffs at a minimum. How do you move Dak for Puka? Tell me.
Yeah. So generally when I'm playing in like a 12 by 10 league, like, I want to have at least one difference maker. Like, give me a shot at a top 6 guy, right? You know the names. If I can't get 2 of them, then yeah, give me a Purdy, a Goff, a Tua, someone in that, a Baker, right? Someone in that range. If I can't reach that, then I do try to approach it more with volume, right? I'll roll in with Derek Carr, Daniel Jones, and a bunch of picks in my back pocket to patch it up as we go. Like, you can play it a couple different ways, but elite, like the target game breaking type wide receivers don't all grow on trees. And I do think that as the season plays out here, we're going to see like the halves and a giant clump of just the same thing when it comes to wide receiver. I think Puka, if he was healthy in that Rams offense, like we saw in his rookie year, I think that he could be one of those game-breaking, difference-making options. And those are the ones that I'd be willing to trade like a Dak to get into, simply because I do think that there's multiple ways you can approach quarterback, but I don't think anyone can deny it feels great to have Dak on the roster right now. Now that he has a massive bag of cash in his back seat, he's got the offense, he's got CD locked up with him. Like, any of the hesitation with Dak from the offseason, that's gone.
Got it. So you're taking it from the perspective, and I'd be safe with this if, like, say your quarterbacks are your quarterback 1, you were left with a Tua, Goff, Purdy. Your 2 might be a Geno or a or a Carr maybe. You worry me a little bit when you gave like the Carr Russ Wilson as a quarterback situation, because I don't think I'd sleep at night with that.
It doesn't feel great.
I couldn't sleep at night with that. Because like the owner here in this trade, he says his quarterback 2 was Russ Wilson. Like those situations concern me, Ty, when my quarterback 2 is someone that I know may not have a starting job next year. And then now if next year I only have one quarterback and I competed enough where I can't replace that quarterback in the draft, and then I traded my draft picks, like, I don't want to get stuck with only one quarterback. That's what I would be the deal breaker for me.
No, especially if you already moved those picks, you have a competing roster. You need to be locked up. So on this team, again, you're pairing Dak with Mahomes. You're relegating Russ Wilson. Feels great to relegate Russ Wilson. Yeah, information we have today, give me Dak, and I'm happy with it. Yeah, smash. Agree, Steve-O. Okay, Jordan Mason. We're going to skip some Jordan Mason deals. We've had a lot of those, but ooh, that's a pending offer. We only do completed offers here. Okay, here we go, Dan. We had a best ball deal. This went down in one of our big Heisman leagues. So it's a 12-team start 13 league. It's actually like a 36-team start 13, but 12 by 13 is a good way to think about it. Okay. Bonuses everywhere. It's a best ball league. Are you sending away Christian McCaffrey and a second to get into Bijan Robinson with what we know today?
I am shipping. Even if McCaffrey was playing these weeks and is healthy, it's similar to that over 30 receiver cliff we talked about. Not that I think McCaffrey's old or toast or anything like that, but he has had an injury history. He does take a lot of pounding. And there's some of the things I consider too, Ty. Like one of the concerns I have with those Rams receivers is they rely on them heavily. And when both of them are not out there, like we saw Cooper Kupp just get run into the ground. We see Kyron Williams, like the Rams run their guys into the ground. And it's kind of the same thing with McCaffrey. So like, I love that young, healthy, have for a lot longer time with Bijan security than having McCaffrey. Yes, we all love those blow up McCaffrey weeks, and there's no one like them. But we're talking dynasty here, and I don't even know if best ball or dynasty or redraft would matter in this scenario. Maybe redraft would, but best ball and dynasty, give me Bijan.
Yeah, I mean, if I had a second round pick in redraft, I'd be selling that thing immediately. Just give me Bijan. Right? Yeah, I get splitting assets and trying to, like I said, play the market. Just give me Bijan. Right? Like I'll figure it out with Bijan. But yeah, I'm sided with you there. Okay. Okay. So I've been looking at a lot of the cups. I'm using the Dynasty Daddy Trade database, Stan, and Cooper Kupp's been moving for a first and multiple points. People like points, and like you said, it's a volume-based bet, right? Like they run Kupp, Puka, Kyron, when healthy, all into the ground with targets. I remember like when I was watching Puka in his rookie year, I was like, they're throwing him to him again and again. And like, I remember that first game, Puka's like, he's almost passing out just from running all damn game. Like they put work into him. Are we really betting on Kupp to hold up? Because if he does, he's going to smash. But Dan, are you betting a 25 first to get into Kupp and a third? Are you making that bet right now?
I'm not. I think the only scenario I am is if it's a start three wide receiver and I am all in to win it now, and I'm very confident that first is going to be late next year, I might take Kupp to help me win that first prize this year. But that is the only scenario. In general, like going into this offseason, I wasn't going after Kupp. People offer me, I'm like, sorry, I'm just not interested. I'm keeping my first, because that first next year is going to be that young stud elite receiver that you're going to have for a decade, where Kupp's now in that, that old man club. He's entering into it. And I do have that fear of injury with Kupp. I had that fear last year. The Rams just drive those guys into the ground. So if you're old and you're going to get driven to the ground, there's no Puka now to take some pressure off. I'd rather the first.
Yeah. I'm going to take the first. You could be so right with Kupp that it doesn't matter. You win, you smash. Like you could be so right. I'm just going to take the first, though. I just don't consider Kupp at this stage in his career an asset that I'm willing to bet my future on. And I'll just stick with my pick and either use that in a different way or just keep that as insurance. So I'll keep the first, but that Kupp side, they could score so many points it could just break. So hope that works out for you. GQ football, Roy G, I'd be taking the first. So good stuff. Okay, more Jordan Mason, no thank you. More Jordan Mason, no thank you. It is hot up in here. Here we go. Okay, sloppy Eric. We got a 12-team start 10, 0.5 PPR, and a 1 tight end premium. Again, no tight ends. So thanks for listing it, but don't need it. So sloppy Eric gets into Rashee Rice, a 2025 second, another 2025 second, and a 2027 first. And they're giving up Puka Nacua, a 25 first, and a 2027 second. Now, Dan, I don't know if 2027 is actually a real year yet. I personally don't want to be paying the league, say, for 2027 here in 2024, but that's another story for another day. Puka Nacua, I think he's like wide receiver 10 on Keep Trade Cut right now, and Rashee Rice is wide receiver like 13. I checked like an hour ago. It's probably changed since then. So really, Puka for Rashee Rice, that might be like a cross off at this point, especially since one of them is still scoring points and one of them isn't. So I'm gonna hit pause right there, Dan. Puka and Rice, where are you at there?
This may be just a coach in me, Ty, and this is where this might be like my kryptonite. This might be where you take advantage of me in a league, Ty, and you take my coaching vulnerability. When two things are normally equal, I have an issue with players that get in trouble in the offseason, speeding, and then a week later get in more trouble, because I question their commitment to this game long term. Like, they're the guys that somewhere in time drive themselves out of a job or ended up not playing football because they got in trouble. That could just be the coach of me that wants, the Puka Nacua who's busting his tail, working, doing everything you could ask for as a coach. I want him on my fantasy team. So I'm going to hope he's healthy. I'm going to lean Puka, but that could just be my kryptonite, Ty. If you said, hey, I want the healthy young receiver that looks great, connected to Patrick Mahomes, I wouldn't flinch. I'd say, hey, I get it.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're leaning that way, I mean, then obviously you're taking a 25 first and the 27 second over a 27 first and 25 seconds. Just the timing of all that. I want the pick that's coming up now versus the one that's on layaway. All right. Do you see that the same as me?
Yeah. The first is what definitely moved me. When I looked at this as a whole, I was like, that you had me at the first. If it's 1 for 1, and even though I gave you that little philosophical speech I gave, I might just say I don't want to do this traded because, hey, I'll just deal with Rice. Maybe I'll try to trade him somewhere else and get someone that's healthier than Puka. Who knows? But you definitely had me at the 25 first.
Yeah, I don't mind the Rice to Puka pivot. Like I said, I'll tell you, guaranteed for the next 4 weeks, Rice will outscore Puka. Will that continue? Will Puka be his regular self? I'd bet yeah. But it's scary hours, so I can't blame anyone for doing that. But this is a really interesting way of getting Puka and the pick upgrade. So if I can send Puka, or if I can get Puka and a 25 first, I'll send away my Rice, a 27 first, a couple seconds to get it done. So this is an interesting one, a swap a year, swap of wide receivers, but yeah.
If I could give one more thing, Ty, to think about, and this maybe makes me a hypocrite, and I would go the other way. One thing that concerns me with Puka, same thing that concerns me with Garrett Wilson a little bit, is I do look to see who they're attached with at quarterback. What happens when Stafford leaves? What happens when Aaron Rodgers leaves? Like, I don't know if those organizations have answers, because they're going to win enough games to not put themselves in position to get a first. So then do you got to deal with a year or 2 years of a bad quarterback situation there where Patrick Mahomes isn't going anywhere, and as long as Rice stays out of trouble, he's not going anywhere. So that security is enticing for me as far as number one wide receivers.
No, for sure. And I mean, the Rams treat draft picks like you and I do, right? They are out the door. So I don't see them being in the position to draft one either. It's going to be interesting, but Stafford is so dang good that I think he makes that offense what it is. So it's going to look different. I'll tell you that for free.
100%.
All righty. That one didn't load. Here we go. Okie dokie. We'll call it a 12 no, here we go. 12-team Superflex start 10. We'll add a little bit of context here if we need it. Jay Hart, he sends away Kirk Cousins, 1.5 leg Kirk Cousins, A.J. Brown, Swole Batman, and Breece Hall. And he sends away Puka Nacua, Caleb Williams, and Jonathan Brooks. I was in voice chat today at the old Discord, DD Football, patreon.com/allgas. Get in there. We talked a lot about Jonathan Brooks. And, I mean, the people were spending first to get into him in the offseason. I like Jonathan Brooks as a talent, but right now he is not scoring fantasy points, and he's going to be on an offense, which people do not like in Carolina. You have Breece Hall. New York Jets should be fed on that team, and I expect big things from Breece Hall. I see him in a similar regard to Bijan Robinson. A.J. Brown, he is the soft spot to my heart. If you send me A.J. Brown, I will probably say yes to whatever deal you send me. Like, it's just who I am, Dan. So I love me some A.J. Brown. Kirk Cousins, I don't know how to feel anymore on Kirk. I mean, I'll just bet that maybe he's like, you know what, I am getting paid enough. Let's actually play some football, and he looks good. But it could be one of those situations you're just praying that Penix gets his shot and he moves forward with those weapons. But I mean, Puka, Caleb, and Brooks for Cousins, Brown, and Hall. This is a big deal. This is a good deal. So I'm going to start crossing off some things here, and you tell me what you think. So I want A.J. Brown over Puka. I think if you said you'll send me Puka Nacua and Jonathan Brooks, I think that's probably fair for A.J. Brown. How do you feel on that?
I think it is fair. Just, we know what the value of the running back position is in Dynasty, and we're going to assume Puka's going to get healthy, and he could obviously score with an A.J. Brown. So to me, that's close to a free Jonathan Brooks. Be patient. You've just scored yourself a number one running back. So that way, yeah, I'd go Puka and Brooks.
Yeah. You're paying the double injury tax, but it could really pay off down the line, like as early as like week 9 of this year, right? So yeah, I like that. Then you're talking Kirk Cousins and Breece Hall for Caleb Williams, 101. Man, I mean, if I'm taking a long-term approach, I love me some Breece Hall. Breece Hall is probably going to score the most fantasy points. I told you, Dan, I like to roll with like a little bit of a crustier quarterback sometimes, and Kirk Cousins probably fits that, but I'm probably taking Caleb Williams here. I mean, come on. How do you see that?
You had me worried a little bit, because if you were going with the crustier quarterback, I'm like, all right, Ty, we got to continue this conversation over the course of a couple of years just to kind of see how some of these scenarios play out. I love Breece Hall, I do, but I also love Caleb Williams, and I don't want to live with Kirk Cousins long term. I'd rather I think it's easier to figure out how to get a running back and manage your running back situation than it is to get a Caleb Williams. So I'm on the Caleb side.
No, I think that's exactly where my mind went. It's going to be easier to figure out that running back position than it would be to get into an elite outcome quarterback like Caleb. Just if I ever have the opportunity to hop from running back to quarterback and stay elite, I'm just going to take the quarterback out of principle. So I agree. Good deal. If Puka, Jonathan Brooks, if the production doesn't come this year, maybe that A.J. Brown side feels a little bit better, but I'm just going to take Puka, Caleb, and Brooks and figure it out. But again, when I see Breece Hall, A.J. Brown on one side of the deal, I stutter because that is nice.
Hey, you give that owner credit. Like, he came heavy for Caleb Williams. Oh, yeah. He came with his probably his strongest offer. If you're playing the short game and you want to win now, like I think you're going to get a lot more points this year based on health out of Cousins, Brown, and Hall. They're going to get you out of the gates while you're waiting on Puka. I think you're going to have to sift through the development of Caleb in some tough weeks with that Bears O-line. You got to wait on Brooks, and even coming off that injury, it takes them a while to ramp up. So, but long game, young receiver in Puka, him and AJ will be competitive. It's just so hard to get a Caleb Williams. And Jonathan Brooks, if he lives up to his pedigree, in time should be in a tier close to Breece Hall.
Mm-hmm. And I'll say we'll move on after this. If I can move Breece Hall and then get into a Jordan Mason for much cheaper. That's generally how I want to approach it. I can't do that with Caleb Williams. No one's just sending me Caleb Williams for anything cheap. So you know what I mean? So I will do that for Caleb. I will go into the elite quarterback. Let's find one more to get out of here with. We already went over old Dak there. I think I saw it. Yeah, let's go with this one here. It's a 14 team start 11. Super flex. We got a best ball league here, and this person is rebuilding. So best ball, we want starts, we want points, and a 14 team league quarterback clearly matters. Vorpal Stu gets into Sam Darnold, Jamison Williams, and Tank Bigsby. And Drew C gets into a 26 first, their own 26 first on a rebuilding roster. So opening up the path to that 101 and 26. That's how they want to take it, along with a 25 second and a 26 third. Sam Darnold, J-Mo, Bigsby, all assets that really didn't have too many legs coming into the season, but Sam Darnold looks good in the Vikings offense. J.J. McCarthy's out of the way. J-Mo has resurgence. Dan, 26 first, 25 second, 26 third on a rebuilding roster, or Sam Darnold, J-Mo, and Tank Bigsby?
Man, I think this is this is like out of my comfort zone of I'm used to being contending. I'm impatient waiting for a 26 first, even though it probably will be here before you know it. So I want to keep that in mind. If I'm rebuilding, I really need that 26 first, and hey, I get a second next year, another future third. Man, I think it's really close, Ty, because I do believe in J-Mo, and I think what's interesting here is I'm really liking Tank Bigsby right now.
Yep.
He looks spry and good, and I'm still in on ETN. I'm not saying I'm out on ETN in any way, but I think Bigsby's one of the better handcuffs, and I think Darnold's going to have a lot of points this year. So I'm kind of wondering, like, if I could chunk out trading Darnold somewhere else, get that desperate team that really needs that quarterback. Could you get a first? You could definitely get a second, I think, for him. So you could get that second anyway. I don't know. If I'm rebuilding, I know I need firsts, but I would really be trying to get a 25 first, not a 26. So I'm going to lean the JMO side.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, in a best ball league too, like I like to be a little more like I'll trade my picks, but I also want to be smart with it, right? Like I think there's a timing that comes with it, and we talked at the start of the show about like using seconds and thirds to like buy starts or buy those points. I think that comes into play a lot more with best ball, especially down the stretch. So I like to have those picks, and I think it's a little bit tougher to kind of go down the line and say this player for this value, this player for this value, and this player for this value. When guys like Sam Darnold, Tank Bigsby, I'll leave JMO out of that conversation for now. Those guys are very replaceable in best ball because I can approach the quarterback with volume, and I bet I can get better points out of a Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins quarterback room week over week than I could if I just had Sam Darnold. So I don't need to get into Sam Darnold. Tank Bigsby, if I'm on a rebuilding roster, like I like Tank Bigsby, but if I can get any value from him in a trade right now, getting any kind of potential points off my roster is getting me something liquid. I can figure that out. I can maybe even buy back into Tank Bigsby when I need to. It's the JMO of it all, right? And that's the tough part. And I think if this was a random 2026 first, I'd be on your side. Give me Darnold, JMO, and Bigsby. But knowing that they're rebuilding and knowing that they get the power now to take that first to the bottom of the barrel, right? They hold their future in their hands now. That's something where I'm willing to trade away the found money here in JMO. I like JMO, 12th overall pick. Like all that draft capital bias is coming right back up to the front for me. Like go JMO, go. But if I can trade that away and get my future back in best ball, I'll take the picks and I can figure that out down the line.
100%. Like that 26 first should be the rebuilding piece you need.
If it's not, then I want the other side, right? If you half-ass it and that's 108, then I'll just take the points now and I'll figure that out. But Dan, that is it. We did it, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on. I had a blast talking with you. I do love like a good football mind. Like I played ball for 16 years, so I think there's a bit of an intrinsic knowledge of the game that comes with that. So I really appreciate you bringing your perspective out here. So once again, tell the people where they can find you on X or in the Discord, and let us know if you have anything else coming up. But most of all, thank you.
Hey, my pleasure, Ty. And I think it's important for our listeners, that's the value of how we talk through some of these trades. Instead of just hitting instant accept, hey, hop in the Discord, have a little dialogue along this to help you make that decision. There were a couple trades here that weren't maybe clear cut, that just talking through it with you says, hey, it makes sense to go this way. So enjoyed talking with you. FF Coach Dan on the X. Also at Dynasty Theory on the X. And again, proud and thrilled to be part of the DD fantasy football team. Ty, man, I'll talk football with you anytime. Tonight was a blast.
Absolutely. Yes, if you want to get in this Discord, you know where to go. Patreon.com/allgas, ddfantasyfootball.com for all the new tools, exclusive, everything is on there. Underdog, use code ALLGAS, get 1,000 at sign up, bonus match, deposit match. Get in there, people. We'll be back again next week. You'll see Dan and I in the Discord. And if you're not in the Discord, once again, every single exclusive thing is happening in there right now. This is not your general DD Discord. This is brand new. This is new stuff. Get in there right now. Other than that, take care. We out of this thing. Peace.